Welcome to the Rock is George podcast. I'm your host, George Dionne. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to hit like, follow, or subscribe on the platform that you're listening to us on. You can also check out my work at the loudest.com on the planet, knac.com, for exclusive hard rock and heavy metal interviews, live show coverage, album reviews, and more. My guest for episode 167 is bassist STU BROOKS. Stu is a bassist in demand. Not only is he a member of Dub Trio, a group that he founded, he is also the bassist for composer and Oingo Boingo frontman DANNY ELFMAN. And not only does he play live with DANNY ELFMAN, he also concluded a tour with solo artist DOMINIC FIKE, and he's currently out on tour filling in on bass for SUMBLIME. STU BROOKS is getting ready to release his first solo album called 40 Hertz. It'll be out on October 26th through Dine Alone Records. And here's Stu to tell you more about it.
Yeah, thanks for taking interest in the record and stuff that I'm working on.
No problem. It's definitely something different than what I normally cover. I normally cover the hard rock and heavy metal genres, but I've been trying to expose myself to new mediums and new genres because I certainly like more music than heavy metal and hard rock.
Sure. Yeah, me too. But I play heavy metal and hard rock as well, but
Absolutely.
How could we only like one thing?
Yeah, exactly. There's some people, there's some gatekeepers that you can only like heavy metal and nothing else.
Right. Perhaps.
All right. Why don't we get started about your solo album? If I knew absolutely nothing about STU BROOKS, how would you describe your solo music to me?
Well, I'm a bass player by trade, and a sideman for the 25 years, backing up different artists. And I got into the production world a little bit and started making my own stuff geared towards like supporting other people's records, trying to collaborate with other artists. And so I've amassed a collection of collaborations, and at some point it's like, let's get these out. And so I spoke with my friends at Dine Alone Records in Toronto, and they wanted to put it out as a record. And so then that gave me a purpose, and so I started working towards making a full album with a compilation of collaborations.
So am I hearing you correctly that this is kind of music that wasn't used when you collaborated with these other artists and you're putting it together for your first solo album, 40 Hertz?
Partially correct. Yeah. Initially, I had some songs which kind of got my foot in the door with the label and like spawned the idea. So the first three were with Patrick Stump, Angelo Moore, and Jason Allen Butler, Fever 333, Fishbone, and Fall Out Boy. And so when I sent those tracks to Dine Alone, they were like, yeah, just keep going. Like, and we could release one a month leading up to the record. And so it's sort of been one a month. We did like a initial 5 last year and then took like a 3-month break and then did another 5. And the 5th one comes out next week on the 26th, October 26th.
Was that always the intention to kind of introduce this album slowly as singles? I know I've seen singles date back as far as November 2022.
Yeah, that was the original idea. It's just kind of a way to build up my profile as a producer and artist and remixer and bass player. And so that being said, like there's no like box where it's like specifically one genre. It's specifically no genre. So every song might be genre bending or just so different from the next. But I think the common denominator is just me, with the final touches being the thread throughout all the tracks.
I took a crash course in STU BROOKS this week, and I would say that this album encompasses every genre that you dabbled in. Would I be kind of onto something here?
I'd say so, and I'm trying to expand as well. my friend Nate No Face. He's California artist. He and I got together. Uh, my friends at Tradegraph Farms, a weed company. Um, we were working together, and so was Nate. And so they were like, "You guys should collaborate." And I looked into Nate, and I was totally blown away. He inspired me so much. So early on in my record, when I found him, or before I found him, I was struggling with like, what is this record going to sound like? Do I have like a mission goal? And I was struggling with that. And when I heard him, I was like, those are his ingredients are bass and drum machines. He's very DIY, so it's like him in his bedroom, basically, um, with certain limitations. And those limitations, he's so prolific. He makes so many songs. That really inspired me. So I created some limitations and parameters for my record, similar to his in a way, and that really got me going. And then I started going in that direction with the synth punk. His genre is synth punk. He actually called his record synth punk. But then, like, I'm also collaborating with artists like Danny Elfman and Poppy, but then also with Angelo Moore and Paul Leary from Butthole Surfers, Fever 333.
The list goes quite
and
long on
the
this.
list goes on. Yeah, so I'm sort of influenced by Danny's like goth sort of adjacent world, and The Locust, HR from Bad Brains. It's all mixed, so it's like punk and gothic industrial synth driven punk, I guess you could say. But also dub. Like, I'm very much a reggae player and really interested in dub music, and I have my own band, Dub Trio, which also does a lot of different collaborations with like Mike Patton from Faith No More, or Troy from Mastodon, or Michelle Endigo cello. I love the collaboration. So basically, some of the collaborations ended up meaning that I would lose some control and roll the dice a little bit, and like have that other person's personality and character come into play. And I love that, you know.
There's a significance to the album's title, 40 Hertz. It's the name of your recording studio, correct?
Yeah, I guess so. It was like early on, I started my company, 40 Hertz Inc., you know, and then I was like, let's make a brand out of it. And we do have some clothing for sale and things like that. And I'll be expanding that as we go. But 40 Hertz is basically a low E on the bass, pretty close to a low E on the bass. And it's like the frequency that you don't really hear up here. It's more like you feel it down in your body, you know. And I love that physical experience with music, coming from a dub background, you know. So I just went with that. It's a bass lovers kind of brand, I suppose.
Bass doesn't get a lot of love, at least in rock bands. Typically, you hear the singer, you hear the guitar players' names, you know that bass is sort of kind of pushed to the side. Very important when it comes syncing up with the drummer and making a song, right?
Yeah, it's amazing that it's kind of a mystery, because the bass is the only instrument that really controls the harmony and the rhythm. Like, a piano player could play a C major chord, but if the bass player plays anything other than C, it's no longer a C major chord. For example. And like, I remember like my grandmother being like, what's the bass, you know? And like, she's singing the bass part, but she doesn't know that it's the bass. It's not really like that, like you're saying, like, we're more like sidemen, you know, bass players generally. Unless you're like Flea or Les Claypool or somebody like that, you know. But there's many. I think a lot. It's kind of on the rise now. A little more visibility, more interest is being taken in the bass guitar.
Now, you don't sing at all. You just responsible for the music on this album, right?
Yep. I don't do any lead singing. I have done some backgrounds and stuff like that.
Your wife's a vocal coach, from what I understand. So I'm surprised you actually cover any vocals on this.
Yeah. She sang some on here. She sang on the Twin Shadow track, some backgrounds. Twin Shadow. That one's called Everything She Wants, and yeah, she's the muse for that song. But often I'll recruit her to do vocal production for me because, well, she's got a lot of experience doing that and really, really good at it. Very subtle, and she can flatter a singer without them ever knowing there was an edit. You know what I mean? And right now she's working on Family Guy and American Dad, but she literally right over there. But she's been in the TV audio industry for about 20 years or so.
Well, let's talk about the song Everything She Wants and how she inspired your lyrics to that song.
Okay, well, I didn't write those lyrics, but
okay.
Being that, okay, so George Lewis is Twin Shadow. He wrote the lyrics and melody to that. And actually I wrote that song with my dub trio bandmate Dave Holmes in 2016 with George in mind. And it took like 7 years for me to, or 6 years for me to send it to him. And we had played together in the past and became friends over the years, and just never collaborated really. And when I sent him the instrumental, he sent me those lyrics and melody back, and I was like over the moon. I was so excited. Like I'm one of his biggest fans, you know. So I don't have too many bands that I latched onto as like, okay, this is my shit. I got really into it, and I did a cold audition for him once, and that's how we met. Like I sent him a video through YouTube way back, like 2014 or something like that. And I got the call back and went out to LA and met up with him. That's how we met.
Another prominent song you have released from the album is They'll Just Love You. It has a Hollywood style music video, I would say. Did you come up with
sure
with the concept?
The video was not my idea. The video came from a friend named Chris J. Cunningham. He's in Seattle. He did I met him through The Locust, because I was working on an album with Danny Elfman that was a collection of collaborations, and I brought Justin Pearson in to do a remix of one of his songs featuring The Locust. Then Chris, they volunteered a video, and Chris put it together for Danny. And then from there, like I had seen like what kind of work he had done, and I sent him a couple tracks from the album, and he chose that one. And yeah, I just gave him total creative control, and I flew up to Seattle and videotaped it with him there.
Are you considering another music video? I know you do a lot of visualizers, and you're also a busy guy, so I'm not sure you have another chance to do a video.
Yeah, I am not so involved in that. So there are possibilities. There's a song, oh yeah, a song that Justin Pearson is on my record. He was hoping to he wants to like work it with get a video. He has some video ideas, so we might actually do that.
Is that going to be Laughing Stock? Is that what it is?
That's right. Yeah. I did do about 10 remixes for this record as well. So maybe there's like an opportunity there where the remixes have a video or something like that. But we'll be rolling those out next year as well. Some really amazing remixers involved.
So not just yourself in doing these remixes, you're going to have other artists work on them as well?
Right. Yeah, it's just an opportunity for me to collaborate with more people, you know? So like Machine Girl did a remix of the Nate No Face track that's on my record called Don't Really Care. Machine Girl is one of my favorite artists. He's like a breakcore. I don't know if you know him, but he's breakcore, grindcore, hardcore electronic music, industrial, really nasty. I love him. And Kid 606 did one, who's like a legendary electronic musician. Same with Richard Devine. Mario C, famous from the Beastie Boys, did a remix of the HR track with Marcia Richards from the Skints. Contravoid did a remix for the Twin Shadow track, and the list kind of goes on. I love remixes.
It seems
because
kind of on brand for the music that you make.
yeah, I love electronic music. I've always have, and I'd like to incorporate that into my record, and to have somebody like Richard Devine do a remix is absolutely mind blowing.
One of my favorite tracks on the album is Live Nude Pigs with Paul Leary and Fake Legs. I'm assuming Paul wrote
Yeah,
this.
knows my friend Matt Kronk from Fake Legs. He's also in a band called Quee, which is on Ipecac, Mike Patton's label. Um, that's how I met him, and he was opening for Mr. Bungle in February 2020, and that's when I met him right before like lockdown. And so we ended up writing a lot of music during the pandemic. Matt and I. He wrote the lyrics to the Danny Elfman verse as well in "They'll Just Love You." I think he's such a great writer, and he's a very unconventional guitar player. He loves a lot of the same music that I love, and very interesting guy. And then so we were like, I think we were just, I was producing a record with Paul Leary and Eric Wilson from Sublime in 2020. And that's how I met Paul, actually. And we hit it off. And so now we're like collaborating a bunch. So yeah, he played guitar on that. Oh, and he sings on it, of course. They're trading vocals. I don't know if there's too many recordings of Paul Leary singing, but he's more or less like barking like a dog.
Was there an artist or a collaborator you tried getting on this album that it either didn't fit or you couldn't make it happen?
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'll just keep it private. I'll just keep that private.
That's fine.
But because you never know, it could happen down the road.
Sure.
I wouldn't want to like put it out into the universe and change fate.
Is there going to be a physical release of this album, or is it just going to be digital?
Yeah, we'll do vinyl next year. So probably in the spring, the vinyl will be released, and I'll have all the remixes included in that. But all the remixes will be digitally released as well. But yeah, I'd love. We're working on a nice double LP.
Is it going to be colored, or is it just going to be straight black vinyl?
It's a good question. I like doing different colors or smoke or whatever. I want to make it special. So even just for posterity, I don't think I'd probably really sell so many to make my money back, but it's more or less for the art of it.
You did a special EP release of this prior. It was Canadian Record Store Day, cassette tape, color.
Yeah. Put out a cassette. I love it. It's analog. You could hear like the tape. It's just the tape hiss itself is comforting. I love that sound.
How did you sign with Dine Alone Records?
I put out a record with Dine Alone with my band Dub Trio in 2019. And I think they're big Mike Patton fans, or like just that genre of Dine Alone. I think they also have New Damage, which I think is a Soundgarden reference. And like they're very appealing to me. I think they're the coolest label out there. They're definitely the coolest Canadian label. And they just love music. So I'm extremely grateful for their shared passion in music and the opportunity for a platform for me to release music.
You probably won't have an opportunity to play any of this solo material live because of the collaborations, right?
It's tricky. Like it makes me think of Dub Trio was in the band Peeping Tom with Mike Patton, and he made a record like this kind of where every song featured a different artist, very collaborative record, different producer, different remixes. And then when he hit the road with that band, he had a core band and then like a rotating cast around the core for different features and stuff like that. I'm not ruling that out at all. I could just see like it being very expensive to put together. So it's just an idea. I don't think it's necessarily going to happen though. I'm continuing with Sublime and Dominic Fike. I play in Dominic Fike's band, and Danny Elfman. We're playing the Hollywood Bowl next week. We're doing Camp Flognaw with Dominic Fike. the following week, which is in LA, I think at Dodger Stadium. Then December is more with Sublime. We're going to New Zealand for like 8 shows over Christmas and New Year's. Back in Australia with DOMINIC FIKE like a month later. And so, yeah, it's going to be busy. I don't know where I'm going to find the time for to form my own band. But I think anything's possible at this point. It would be fun to do. Like even like have like Machine Girl, like have some of the remixes come and have like maybe a multi-room kind of thing, or just 5 bands, like kind of a mini festival or something like that around the record.
You do like an Avatar thing like ABBA does. They're not really there, but they're there.
Oh, I like that idea. I'll stay right here. That's so funny. Yeah, my friend Perry Farrell, he does so he's putting together like a festival type of idea where it's multi-room, multimedia, and I'm sort of inspired by that idea. So like one room would be like the rave room, and the other room is like the live band, and then another room is like sort of a little more physical art, like where it's like a circus or something like that. But very interesting idea. What did he call it? It's Perry Farrell After Dark, I believe. Kind Heaven After Dark.
There you go.
Yeah,
that's more Perry Farrell.
Yeah, that's it. I love Perry.
You're actually producing his next solo album, correct?
Well, I'm working on some songs. I wouldn't say it would be a full album, but yeah, working on some songs. And yeah, we had one where I think it's just, I don't know what they're going to do with it yet, but had a collaboration with Robert Fripp, which was pretty amazing. Hopefully one day he releases it. I don't know what he's going to do with it. Maybe he sees this.
Yeah. Let's hope so.
Go. Let's put it out.
How did you get the gig with DOMINIC FIKE?
That was through managers. A friend of mine manages an artist I work for, Grizz, at Red Light, and I guess Dominic's team was looking for a bass player, and one of their managers used to work at Red Light, I think. And yeah, it was just sort of like an ask around, little recommendation. I met up with Dominic initially, had like a 5 to 10 minute meeting with him, and that was it. And it's been about a year now, and we just got back from Europe and did a hefty summer tour of amphitheaters in the US and clubs last fall.
Is that similar to how you got the gig with DANNY ELFMAN? Was it through management?
Actually, with Danny, that was a recommendation from Josh Freeze. Yeah, what a great recommendation. I mean, I've made so many friends, made a new family through Danny. And yeah, so I'm very grateful to Josh for that.
You recently finished up a bunch of shows with him as well, right?
Yeah, while I was out with Dominic, I jumped off the tour for about a week to do 2 dates with Danny in California. Where was it? San Diego and Irvine. And that was the first time we had played outside of LA. Well, we played Coachella. And the next gig is Sick New World in April. Except for next week, we're playing the Nightmare Before Christmas stuff. But I'm only playing in the encore. The Danny Elfman band is more like a rock thing. And so we play in the encore. The Nightmare Before Christmas is like orchestral.
There's going to be a bit of acting in this Nightmare Before Christmas show, because I saw the Fred Armisen and Catherine O'Hara are going to be there. Yeah,
he's done this like traditionally on Halloween's for the past like 5 or 6 years, I think, or 7 years. And it's they performed the movie live in real time. So yeah, this time Catherine O'Hara is there. Last year, Billie Eilish did it, and Phoebe Bridgers covered for Catherine. She was like filming a movie or something. So Catherine O'Hara is doing that this year and sharing the role with Halsey. And Fred Armisen's there, and Ken Page as usual. And yeah, they're acting. It's a musical.
So a regular Danny Elfman show, is it a combination of his I don't even know how to put it. His movie soundtracks and his non-movie stuff and his Oingo Boingo stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, it's divided up in thirds, I'd say, like that. His film score, um, and then his film score career, his Oingo Boingo career, and now his new project, which was the album Big Mess. Yeah, those three periods of his life are basically mixed together into one big show.
You worked on Big Mess as well, right?
I did, yeah. I played bass on Big Mess.
Have you guys talked about a follow-up album to that?
I think he might be working on some new stuff, yeah. Um, and then we did release a follow-up album after that, the companion record called Bigger Messier, which was what um I had did some production on that and executive produced that album by way of curating collaborations and then making alternate versions with different singers, including like Trent Reznor and Iggy Pop, Fever 333, Rebecca Del Rio, and then remixers included Square Pusher, who's a hero, absolute hero. Zach Hill from Death Grips, Machine Girl, Juju, The Locust, Boris, Trent Reznor did 2 tracks, Blixa Bargeld from Meisters and Newbouten, Health, Ghostmane, Boy Harsher, Rafik Bhatia from Sunlux, who is an amazing artist, Kid 606 did 1, Little Snake, and more. uh, but yeah, so yeah, constantly, Danny's constantly writing and working on many things at once. And it is my belief that he is working on new, bigger, messier, big mess stuff. It's going to be called Biggest and Messiest.
Why not, right?
Yeah.
Any new music by Dub Trio in the future? It's been a little while since your last album, The Shape of Dub to Come.
Yeah, for sure. It's been held up mostly because of the pandemic, actually. We were in the middle of an album cycle and we were about to hit the road in Europe for the second round of our touring for that album, and then we had a Asian tour planned and in the fall of 2020, and all that was just scrubbed. And basically we had toured enough in the US to not be able to do it again without making another record. So that's the driving force, is like we want to get back together as a band and perform, but we have to make a new record in order to justify a tour, I think. But yeah, I think it's going to be a little different. The guys are spread across the country. Joe Tamino, the drummer, is in Cleveland. He also plays in Sublime now. So we see each other more often, which is amazing. We just reunited like 6 weeks ago for the first time since 2020. And we've been playing together since 2000. So this is the longest break by far that we've had from each other. And we just hit the ground running. It was amazing. And then Dave Holmes, the guitar player, is in Charlotte, North Carolina, and he's kind of been teaching and stuff. He started a family, so things are a little slower now for the band, but I'm working on it.
Is there anything else you are working on that we didn't touch upon?
Today, a song came out that I produced with Nate No Face and Horror, the band Horror, called Kids in Love, STU BROOKS remix. It just came out today, which is Friday, October 20th.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, I love it. I'm honored to be a part of that track. It was a remix, like a new version of an old song that I already loved, and then we brought in Horror to do a vocal feature. I think that's it. I'm probably forgetting something, but I mean, we covered Dominic, Danny, Dub Trio, and Sublime. That's kind of where I'm at right now. Pardon me?
I said, what more do you need? That seems like it's enough.
Yeah, I'm blessed with a lot of good stuff in my life right now, except for the shoulder.
Well, hopefully hopefully with an in-demand basis as yourself, the shoulder heals itself.
Thank you. Yeah.
Those are all the questions I have for you today, Stu. Your latest solo album, 40 Hertz, comes out on October 26th through Dine Alone Records. I really enjoyed it. It's not normally a genre that I seek out, but I decided to take a listen, and I was hooked instantly with kind of everything you work with.
Thanks so much, man. I really appreciate that.
I kind of use this podcast to introduce people to new things. Actually, my tagline is discover your next favorite artist on the Rock is George podcast. And at the same time, I'm discovering new artists. So it's great.
Amazing. I did want to mention next week, when on the release day, we release one single with Flowdan. The song's called Right Off. And I made that with Joe Tamino, the drummer from Dub Trio. And Flowdan, a great singer, a hero of mine for years. And he does a sort of like a British toasting, like Jamaican style toasting in a British way. He's like a drill grime artist. Yeah, I'm really excited about that track.
Oh, definitely looking forward to that dropping, and everyone looking forward to your latest album dropping. I want to thank you for taking the time today. I know you're a busy guy, Stu, and I really appreciate learning more about you and your craft.
Thanks so much.
Once again, I want to thank Stu Brooks for coming on the Rock is George podcast. Be sure to check out his debut solo album, 40 Hertz, out on October 26th through Dine Alone Records. Head over to your favorite music streaming platform, take a listen to what's available. If you like what you hear, buy a physical copy, support the artist. For all things Stu Brooks, head over to his official website, Stu Basie Brooks. That's BASSIE Brooks.com. I also want to thank David at Freeman Promotions and Dine Alone Records for making this interview possible. You've been great. I've been George Dionne. Discover your next favorite artist on the Rock is George podcast.